friends, welcome back. Today I thought it would be fun to do a little online shopping, a little comparison of some planners for 2023. So there have been a bunch of announcements and releases of kind of the grid-based planners. The things in the lineage, we'll call, of the Hobonichi Cousin. Some of them are pretty different, some of them are more similar, but that kind of aesthetic based on small grids, hours, that kind of thing. You've seen them, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I recommend Karina Loves to Plan. I'll post a link to one of her Plan With Me's here. She works in a A5 Hobonichi Cousin, and I watch her videos every week, and that would give you a great sense of what these things are. But that's been the big name in the game for a while, and I've noticed a number of more independent makers getting slightly different or quite different designs done in book-bound planners. So these will all be book-bound. They're all A5 or B6 sized, the ones I'm talking about, and I'm going to be talking about them more from a design and features standpoint and less from a price, availability, location standpoint, because viewers are going, your mileage will vary based on where you live, whatever. Some of these are pre-orders at the moment, some of them are ready, some of them I'm going based on spec because I've seen their previous years and I'm assuming they're not changing them too much between year to year. But some of them haven't been announced yet at the time of filming. So it's kind of in a comparison to look at things like grid sizes, daily pages, weekly layout, widths, because if you have a certain set of stickers that it's important to you to keep using, some of them will fit better than others. And it's all very personal. These are, as I go through them, it will be kind of based on my aesthetic, how I plan. I do give you the information, but what I'm drawn to may not be the same thing as what you're drawn to. And also, I have never used any of these planners. Some of them are brand new, never before produced. Some of them have been around for a few years, but absolutely zero of them have I ever used, held in person, etc. So you'll probably want to, based on this, do some other searching to see, once you decide one of them might be a thing you're interested in, to see if there's a YouTuber who's actually holding one in their hands, because you'll get a lot of value out of that. So anyway, this is me going around on my computer, online shopping, trying to decide what's going on with this trend, which ones I would pick. I don't know that I will actually buy any of them, but it's a nice fantasy. I love the look of them. I don't know that book-bound planners are the right thing for me personally. I've been using discs the whole time, and I don't really see myself changing from that, but the book-bound planners are really beautiful. And some of the designs that these people have come up with are really, really nice. And I'm a design nerd. I design my own layouts, and I'll post a link, but I don't have anything like these. And, at my core, I just love design. And so it doesn't have to be my design. I get excited about other people's designs too, and comparing and contrasting. So if that's the thing you're interested in, let's go to the computer and we'll go look at them together. Okay, so here we are at my computer. This is a Google spreadsheet I've made just to kind of keep some of the information straight. If you want, you can screenshot this so that you can refer back to it, but I'm going to have this on my other monitor to kind of help guide the conversation. So just so you know, that's kind of all the math that I did. So let's start by talking about the Hobonichi Cousin, which I feel like is like the baseline for everything we're going to talk about here. It's kind of a staple. There are millions, I would guess, of videos on YouTube that include it. And so while we're not going to go into all of the details, I feel like it's worth having kind of the baseline. So it's available as both the full year and like 2 half years, called the Avec. We will see that in some of the other ones, and people like that because if you add a lot of stickers, then you're not getting all of the bulk in one book. And since it's a book bound planner, you can't, it can only get so wide, it just starts to splay. So that's what this Avec 2-book set is. If we look, there are all kinds of things in the front and whatever, but let's focus on the monthly and the weekly. This is what the monthly looks like. It's got all these colors for the weekends. The grid for both is 3.7 millimeters. We'll be comparing that. So this is what the monthly looks like. All of the months are together at the front of the book. They're not interspersed with the weeks. And then, oh, and this is an A5 planner, if I did not mention that. Oh, no. The weekly pages, I'm sure you've seen. They look like this. They've got some color up here. The hours go from, I think, 5. It's too small for me to read, but I think it's 5 all the way down. So they have, I think, the full 24 hours here in military time. Let's see if I can make it clearer. Nope. I think it starts at 5 and goes till 4 in the morning. With the grid, these columns, because they're 3.7 millimeters wide, each column total, based on my math, is 1.3 inches wide. So a little too narrow for your 1.5 inch boxes to fit snugly in there. Although, of course, you can have things go outside the lines, or you could not use box stickers and use other kinds of stickers. But I will be comparing the widths of these weekly columns because that is a thing I care about, and so that's definitely a thing that differentiates these different planners. This is has historically been made with Tomoe River paper, 52 grams, GSM. I believe they're switching this year, but I don't know what they are, but it'll still be a really thin fountain pen friendly paper. I'm pretty confident that is their kind of aesthetic. Then the last thing is that there are daily pages for every day of the year. They're dated. They've got this like shortened timeline. They have quotes in Japanese or maybe in English if you can find the English version, but either way, big blocks of text down here, and then mostly a free-form grid. So that is the Hobonichi Cousin. That is the thing that we will be comparing all the other things to. So let's look at Wonderland 222. So they're doing a pre-order right now. Theirs come in a lot more sizes. I believe there's another version of the Hobonichi, but I don't really like a smaller one. I never see it talked about, and it's too small for me to care about. But I care about A5 and B6, both of which Wonderland 222 covers. These are the pre-orders. So let's look at the A5 2023 planner. So this is also made with Tomoe River paper. I can't tell if it's white or if it's the cream version. I think it's the white when I've looked at some of the YouTube videos. It seems like it, but there's a fair amount of gray printing on this planner, and so it makes kind of the whole thing look a little grayer. You'll want to do your own research if that's a thing that matters to you a lot. But it's got 3.9 millimeter grid, so a little bigger than the Cousin. Both of them have a bunch of front matter. I don't really care that much about that. If that's a thing that matters to you, you'll want to look into that more specifically. But here is the monthly layout. It's got 5 columns, rows high. Sorry, I keep trying to point, and when I point, it zooms. So it's 5 rows high. So if you've got a month that covers 6 weeks, you will have overlap. But then other than that, and it's got grayed out weekends. However, this is the dated version. The undated version doesn't have, because you might not set up your week this way, it doesn't have the gray for the weekends, which I really like and would like them to change for the dated ones. I've mentioned that on their social media and they are considering it. So if that's a thing that would also matter to you, maybe consider mentioning it kindly to them. They're a small business. I'm sure they value feedback, but kind feedback is always better than not kind feedback. Here's the weekly spread. So it's stacked Saturday and Sunday, or the undated one is just 2 days that are stacked. They aren't grayed out. And then there's this kind of broken bottom. So it's timed on the weekdays from 7 to 21. There are some spots at the top. There are some spots at the bottom. But then the weekend days don't have that here. Because they are only trying to fit 3 columns per sheet, the column widths can be wider. So they're 1.7 inches wide, so wider than a 1.5 standard Happy Planner box. So they'd fit with like a small, like 0.2 of an inch. So probably they'd actually fit pretty well, although not exactly. It is worth noting that there's no sidebar either. So you could maybe like start to learn how to use the bottom kind of as essentially a sidebar. I think that's what I would do if I had this planner, but it's worth noting. And then it's got this kind of gray printing on it, both for the headers up here and on the dated version for the weekends. Now these don't, I think I mentioned that it's 52 GSM Tomoe River paper. They don't have enough enough daily pages for every day of the year. There are only 90 included in the book, so that's between 1 and 2 a week essentially. But there is a companion notebook that you can buy as a bundle to add more days as just the notebook if you wanted to do it that way. But all like the calendars, all the planner stuff is in the one. There's no version of the Avec where it's like half and half. It's all the planner is in one, and then you can add additional daily notebook. This is what the note pages look like. They've got numbers down the bottom for 24, but they're pretty subtle, and then all there is like a division, a light division here at noon and down that middle. So that would be pretty easy to ignore if you had your own layout that you wanted to do. The B6 version, which we'll cover quickly. Well, here, let's look at an undated B6 so we can look at both of those things. So here's what the monthly looks like. So it's shaded for the dates, but it's not shaded for the weekends in this version, which I really like. And then the same on the weekly pages. So shaded here at the top for the headers, but not for the daily, or, for the weekend, which I like. Because B6 is narrower, it's still the same 3.9 millimeter boxes, but the columns are 1.4 inches wide. So very close to being able to get a Happy Planner classic box in there if you wanted to. A little too big, but like probably you'd only have to trim like a very small amount if you wanted to do that. I also didn't mention the months. The monthly spreads are interspersed between the weeks. They're not all at the front the way the Cousin is. They're interspersed, which I like. I know that's true with the dated version. I think it's true with the undated version, but I'm less sure about that. So if that's something that matters to you, you'll want to research that. This is just meant to be a jumping off point. And again, there are only 90 notes pages here. Here's the size of the planner, 4.9 by 6.9. So that's a standard B6 size. I love the B6 size, although I usually use B6 wide, which is a little wider in this dimension here so that you can put discs, because I don't use a book bound. I think B6 is a really, really nice size. It's squarer, it's less tall than A5, and I think it's a more pleasing aspect ratio, but that is fully personal preference. Okay. The next one is, I'm looking at the Yoseka Stationery website. This is the Take a Note planner. This is a Taiwanese planner. They are, again, a fountain pen friendly paper, I'm pretty sure. Yes, again, Tomoe River 68 GSM. So that's thicker than the 52 that the other ones were. That's worth knowing. I actually find 52 a little thin, personally. I don't like all the shadowing that happens. My fountain pen friendly paper is 65 GSM, and I really like that. I have used the 68 GSM as well. In my mind, that's a vote in his favor, although it will mean a thicker planner. This is kind of a different style, but it still feels in the same family. So I've noticed in my research, these promo images are of the A6 planner, not the A5 planner. They come in both sizes, and we can talk about both of them, but these pictures seem to be, from what I can tell, of the A6. So this is what the weekly layout looks like. It's a week on 4 pages. So first there's this like kind of week overview dashboard kind of thing. And then there are columns for, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on the next page. Each column, each grid is 3.5 millimeters. That's the smallest one yet. However, because you're only doing 2 columns per page, they're quite a bit wider. So the A5 one is 2.48, so almost 2.5 inches wide. And the A6 version is 1.9 inches wide. So both of them you'd be able to fit a 1.5 inch box with a little room to spare. The monthly layout, let's see if we can find the monthly. Here it is. Has a lot of room here on the sides for some kind of planning you might want to do there, and room here. There's a little color variation for the weekends, although it's not too bad. If you have 6 weeks, they are a little shortened, so that's worth noting. And all of the months are together at the front, I believe, based on my research. There aren't daily pages in this notebook. There are a few notes pages at the end, but there isn't like 90 or 360 or whatever daily pages. However, there's a lot more room on your days. There are lots of other spreads. I'm not talking about the other spreads for any of these because they're a little too in-depth, and I honestly don't really see myself using them. So here's what the second half of the week on 4 pages looks like. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm not sure what the gray out here is for. Lunch, maybe? It looks like it's around noon. It's hard to tell. The resolution on these pictures isn't excellent. I don't love that, but I don't hate it either. It's a pretty neutral color scheme, and there aren't big blocks, really. So that's fine with me. As I said, this is available in both A5 and A6 from Yoseka Stationery. In a similar vein, there is this Estelle A5 undated classic A5 weekly, and I need to zoom in to show you these promo pictures, and this chat with us box is going to get really big. So there are a variety of spreads at the beginning. This is what the monthly layout looks like. Nice and simple. There's some room for a sidebar, some room on the bottom, 5 weeks worth. So you'd have to divide. It's an undated planner, so you could decide what you wanted to do if the days go an extra time. There are some grid pages in there. The grids are 0.15 inches. So instead of doing in millimeters, these are in inches. It means that the 1.5 inch wide sticker fits perfectly across 10, which is wider than what these are. So this is again a week on 4 pages kind of layout, although it's not particularly prescriptive. It's essentially just columns with room for a header, 4 columns per 2-page spread. And so the idea is you could do an overview and then each day, so you could weekly plan 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way across, but really this is up to you. And if you skip days, you could totally do that. And it would not be a big deal. So this one seems super personalizable. There aren't hours pre-printed, there are just dots. So 22 smaller dots underneath for timeline if you wanted it to be that, or other just a checklist. So this one is extremely flexible for how you might want to use it. Let's see if we can find any additional information. So it is, again, the 52-inch Tomoe River paper. People haven't really been talking about what version of that paper it is, but I would guess a lot of these are going to be the new version, but I don't know that. Don't quote me on that. That paper production is kind of tough to follow. So that's the Aura Estelle undated A5. They do have also, I won't do the full details on it, but they do also have a B6 daily planner, which I really like the look of, where there's a weekly overview spread and then 7 daily spreads in B6. I love B6. And then again, kind of sized with 1.5 inch stickers in mind, which none of the other ones really have been thinking too much about. None of the ones we've talked about before. All right, next up, let's talk Hemlock and Oak. This one is a little different, but also kind of the same. So I'm including it here. It's still definitely a light grid line based planner. So by that account, it feels applicable. I'm showing you the undated one because they haven't launched a page for the 2023 versions yet. I'm assuming they're not doing a big redesign. We've heard we will hear more details about that pre-order soon. So keep your eyes open if this is the one you're interested in. This is the first and only, I believe, hardbound book. So that's a difference. It also is not using Tomoe River paper or similar. I have seen people like Karina Loves to Plan use her fountain pens in this one, but she did then switch to a Hobonichi. So I think it's not the most fountain pen friendly paper, but I also think it's not terrible, is my understanding. You'd want to find people who are talking about that more specifically. I've never held one. This is the undated version. This is the monthly. It's very plain, with lots of little grids and room for checklists or other plans here. There is room for 6 weeks, which is kind of nice if that's a thing that interests you. In the undated version, all of the monthly spreads are at the front together. In the dated version, I believe they are interspersed with the weeks. So that varies. The grid size is 4.2 millimeters wide. So this is the widest so far for the grid. And the other thing that I should have mentioned by now is that this is a bigger planner than any of the others. So it's 6.3 inches wide. So that's about an inch wider than an A5 notebook. And then 8.5 is maybe a little taller than A5, but mostly it's about an inch or about 25 millimeters. Don't quote me on the exact, but wider than an A5 notebook. So what's nice about that is that one can get four 1.5-inch wide boxes per side, which none of the other ones can do. This is more like a Happy Planner classic kind of size. It's a little smaller than that, but it's more like that. I think it's a great size. I think it's really smart. The problem is that, like, I don't know anything that would fit this in terms of if you're into covers. Now, it is hardcover, which is different than the others too. Here's the weekly spread. So again, there's room for 4 columns, so you can have a sidebar. You can have unstacked days. Each column width comes out to just about 1.5 inches wide. So if you are invested in the 1.5-inch sticker game, this will work well for you. There are hours printed on it from 6 to 10. They aren't military time, so they could be either AM or PM. There's a little room at the top and a bunch more room at the bottom if you wanted to use that for something to add to the hours or for a to-do list that is not hour specific. There's also a fair amount of goal setting, mindset framing kinds of stuff in here, and that's up to you on whether or not you think you would use it. It's a Monday start. I haven't been mentioning that, but the Aura Estelle is undated. The Take a Note is Monday start. The Wonderland 222 I think is also a Monday start. Let's check. Yes. So everything we've talked about is a Monday start or undated. The other thing to mention, one thing that's really nice is that everything is made in Canada and there's a real effort to use as much recycled things. So that's PCW, is post-consumer waste. So I really like the ethos of Hemlock and Oak, although I've never owned any of their stuff. I'm a big admirer so far. The other thing is that they do make everything available as downloads too. So if you wanted the digital download of the dated, they had that for 2022. They also had the undated one. They have some other downloads. What's interesting is they also had in 2022, they had this A5 insert, which is formatted for binders or rings. There's like a margin associated for it. What I can't figure out is what the width of the columns are. It can't be the same, but they don't make it clear. So I'm not really sure. So they can't be 1.5 inches wide technically. So they're probably more like a cousin or maybe even smaller, but it doesn't say and it's not clear. Here's an interesting thing that happened. The 2023 weekly planner went up on the website between yesterday when I filmed this video, when I prepped for this video, and today when I'm filming. So the 2023 is up for pre-order. There's information here. It doesn't look like they've changed anything. They've tightened some things up in the front matter. There are more notes pages. Fine fountain pens, they say. 7 colors, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So there are now 20 note pages. So unlike other, like the Hobonichi, there's not like a daily page for every day. There's just 20 blank note pages. Okay, cool. There's also a new one, the 2023 Minimal, which has my attention. Interesting. Okay. This I'm very excited for, so I'm glad this went up between yesterday and today. So this one is A5 instead of the weird size that the other version is. And 192 pages of their same paper. Again, it's got all the sustainability things. Let's look at the layout. So the layout looks the same, so they must have made the columns narrower. Let's see. More room for planning, no more introductory pages. I like that personally. I like the ability to have it either way. I think some of that stuff is good, but some of it you don't need. There's still some of the intention stuff. Additional blank space at the bottom. They've added the moon phases. There are 24 blank pages. Are they going to tell me? So, sorry, I'm doing this on the fly. So here's the size. It's your normal A5 size. The grid is smaller. So instead of 4.2 millimeters, it's 3.77 millimeters. All right, pause while I do the math to see how big each column is. Okay, so this is the same grid size as the Hobonichi Cousin, and it's the same width. So it will be 1.311, or that's too many decimal points, but 1.3 like a Hobonichi Cousin. I really like the look of this planner, especially if there's less stuff. There are not a ton of promo images yet. This is a new item they are offering this year, and it only just went up on the website. So take that for what it's worth. Let's look at the daily really quick to see if they changed anything there. This looks the same to me. Okay, we're not talking about dailies, but you could buy a daily planner if you wanted it. It is, I think, also A5 size. I have one more. This is the Sterling and Ink Common Planner. This is super new. The details are just out. I'll link to the YouTube video, and then I'm going to be talking about it via the Instagram stories. I don't think the pre-order has gone up on the website yet, but it's supposed to go up September 1st. So it's really soon. This is really gorgeous. Honestly, this is what caused me to make this video in the first place. So let's look at it really quick. I think it's gorgeous. And it's what spurred this whole thing. So these are B6 sizes. It comes in two formats: the full year with 365 note pages and a full year, or you can have that whole thing but divided in two, the way the Avec for the Cousin is. So 6 months in one plus the daily pages, and then 6 months in another for the other half of the year, both the weeklies and the monthlies and dailies. So like the Avec, except in B6 size. I love B6 size. I said that before. It comes in two different color covers. Both of them are soft cover and made with like a textured paper for an emphasis on being eco-friendly, which I appreciate. Go through. So here, I don't have better promo images. I guess I could pull up the YouTube video that's up. Maybe I should do that. All right, so when we look at the planner, this is on Sterling Ink's YouTube channel. I highly recommend it. There is some pre-planning, not a ton, some goal setting, less. I think there are fewer random extra pages than a lot of these other planners have, which I appreciate. Everything is really well thought out, in my opinion. Let's find a good picture of the monthly. All right, so here it is. There's room for 6 rows. There's less big header stuff compared to the Cousin. She does in this compare it to the Cousin. It seems like it has mostly the same writing space despite being a smaller planner. Very minimal, Monday start, no extra shading, beautiful font choices. I'm a design nerd and this looks great to me. Big fan of that. The monthlies are all in the front together in the same way that the Cousin is. Here she is comparing the two. Well, she was going to. Here it is, comparing the two. you should watch her video if you want all of the details. I'm trying to find a good shot of the weekly. So here you can kind of see it. It's a week on 2 pages. It's very much like the Cousin. However, it doesn't have all of the colors on it. There are no quotes on any of the spreads. She's using the same width of grid. So the grid is 3.7 millimeters wide, the same as the Cousin. Hers are actually not squares though, they're a little taller. So they're 3.9 millimeters tall, which honestly I think could be helpful if you write small but not tiny. It gives you a little more space to write, even in the same amount of width, which I like. So hers is just 1 box width narrower than the A5 Cousin. As I said, this is a B6 size, although she describes it as the Japanese B6 size, so it's a little different. She does have in here a comparison to the Wonderland 222 B6. It is a little differently proportioned, so keep your eye on that. You'll want to check the actual measurements if you have something you want to fit it into. But it does have a very minimal hourly spread. It goes from, can I tell? It's so tiny. I know it's not in military time. Okay, so it goes from 6 in the morning until midnight with room in between, but they aren't AM or PM, so you could use them either way, which is really nice. And they're very small. I think they'd be easy to ignore if you didn't want them. I think the Hemlock and Oak ones are like take up a full box. These are like on the line in between. So I kind of like that. It's got it's got this super minimal weekly. There's room for the sidebar because she's doing it that way. She's about to compare it to some other planners. So as I said, you should watch that. And then in the back, this is not going to show up well. Maybe we could go back to Instagram. They're just gridded pages. There are enough for one page per day, although you don't have to use it that way. And it's just a grid, except that there are 4 slightly darker dots showing you how to bisect each dimension. So just a little guide if you wanted it. I don't think I mentioned either that there's like these gilded pages. There are going to be page numbers. I think that's most of the information. Here's the gilded pages. Here's some of the extra stuff. It is Tomoe River paper. I don't think I mentioned that. Again, 52 GSM. It's really beautiful. Honestly, this makes my design heart happy. It's not the way I plan, but it is like exactly makes me want to plan in this way. It really does. So that is my full rundown of a bunch of these different independent planner kind of styles. I hope you found this helpful. For me, if I'm thinking about what I would use, if I were buying something for the way I currently plan, I would buy the Wonderland 222 undated B6 planner. I think this is the most similar to how I already plan. It doesn't have the shaded weekends like the dated version does. The stacked doesn't bother me, and I like that the columns are nearly wide enough to put 1.5-inch boxes. I'd miss the sidebar though. So the Katie layout that I have designed for me, and it's in my shop, has all of the days stacked so that there's room for other things, because I don't need this much height per my day. I don't actually hourly plan. So if I were buying one of these for how I currently plan, it would probably be this one, although the new minimalist A5 Hemlock and Oak is throwing me for a curve. If I were looking to like journal, I think I would buy the, I can't find the layout. Oh, it's this because it's here. I would buy, I think probably the A6 Take a Note. I think would be a really nice journal. And it's got the like 2-inch wide columns, so you can actually write some things. The A5 would be really nice if you write more than I did. And if I were just following my heart, I would buy the Sterling Ink one because I think it's beautiful. I'd have to change who I am and how I work, but like, I'm open to that. I do really also like this, no, the A5, I do really like, honestly, I put the Aura, Estelle, and the Take a Note at pretty much the same. I don't have a strong opinion between those two. The fact that it's undated is kind of nice if I were journaling, because I have a tendency to skip a day. So anyway, now that I've essentially talked about why I might buy all of them, I don't think I'm going to buy any of them, although I might. We'll see. I hope you found this helpful and a good way to kind of get all of the information in one place. I'm sure it's not all of the information. I'm sure I forgot things. So my apologies. This is meant to be more a springing off point than an everything you ever need to know point. If you're planning on buying any of these, let me know in the comments which one. I'd be really curious to see which one is like capturing your imagination. In the meantime, don't feel like you need to buy everything. Don't buy more than you want or than you need, and don't buy things that won't serve you, which is why I don't think I'm going to buy any of these, but we will see. It's too early to know. And if you appreciated this video, please hit the thumbs up. And if you want to hear more from me, hit the subscribe button. And I will talk to you soon. Bye, friends.